The light is warm, almost golden, painting the quiet suburban street in peace. From the outside, everything looks ordinary. Families going about their day, neighbors unaware that behind one set of walls, terror is about to strike. Inside Tiffany Harris's home, tension brews quietly. 14-year-old Adeem Berry, her son, moves through the house carrying a firearm. His mother's boyfriend, Cortevious Cruz, is nearby. Tiffany, just 39 years old, is the steady presence in the room, a mother who has spent her life holding her family together. But in this moment, nothing she can do will stop what's coming. Then it happens, sudden and violent. The gun goes off. Cortevious is struck, wounded, as he scrambles to survive. The sound echoes through the home, bouncing off the walls, startling neighbors who don't yet realize what they've just heard. Tiffany rushes forward instinctively, her only thought to protect, to shield, to buy her partner time. She pleads, but Adeem raises the weapon again. In seconds, the boy who once depended on her pulls the trigger, ending the life of the woman who gave him his own. Tiffany Harris collapses, the light of the home extinguished in an instant. Outside, chaos follows. Cortevious manages to flee, bloodied and shaken, calling for help. Neighbors spot Adeem running down the street, a gun in hand, the weight of his actions visible even from a distance. Calls flood into 911. A boy with a gun, a woman down, shots fired in a quiet community. Responding officers descend on the neighborhood. Within minutes, they locate Adeem. The scene is surreal. This teenager standing in the open street, weapon clutched tightly, pressing it to his own head, wavering between surrender and self-destruction. For 16 long minutes, the standoff unfolds. Police plead with him to drop the weapon. Tension mounts, every movement charged with the possibility of another life lost. Finally, using less lethal force, they subdue him, ending the confrontation without further bloodshed. And as the sun sets over Riverview that night, the neighborhood is no longer the same. A mother is gone, a boyfriend lies in recovery, and a community begins to grasp the horror that violence came not from a stranger, but from within a family. Tiffany Harris's story did not begin with tragedy. It began with hope. Born and raised in Florida, she grew into a woman known for her warmth, her resilience, and the laughter she carried into every room. Friends describe her as the type of person who could make you feel seen, even in a crowd, a woman whose presence was a comfort to those who knew her. Photographs of Tiffany flash across the screen. Her arm around family members at barbecues, her smile shining at birthday gatherings, candid moments that capture her spirit. These images remind viewers that Tiffany was not just a headline. She was a mother, a partner, a friend. At 39, Tiffany's greatest pride was her role as a mother. Raising her children, including Adeem, was not always easy. Life, like for many, carried its share of struggles. But she was determined to give them stability, to create a home where love could anchor them through uncertainty. Her relationship with Cortevious Cruz brought her both companionship and support. Together, they formed a blended family, navigating the joys and challenges of everyday life. For Tiffany, these small victories, family dinners, laughter in the living room, the comfort of belonging, were her most cherished moments. Neighbors recall seeing Tiffany on her front porch, chatting with those who passed by. She was approachable, friendly, and known for her willingness to lend a hand. In Riverview, she wasn't just another face. She was a part of the fabric that held the community together. But behind the photographs and the smiles, Tiffany also carried the weight of responsibility. Like many mothers, she was stretched between caring for her family, managing relationships, and holding everything steady when storms came. It was a role she wore with grace, though it demanded everything of her. As the documentary lingers on her story, Tiffany's humanity comes into focus. She wasn't perfect, no one is, but her life was shaped by love and her determination to see her children thrive. Those who knew her say she deserved to grow older, to see her children grow up.
I don't want to hurt you, bro. I do not want to shoot you. Put it down. You don't want to end it this way. You don't want to end it this way, brother. I promise you. Whatever happened today, it can be fixed. Don't pull the trigger. Put it down. Adeem, put it down, buddy. Don't do it, man. Put it down. Don't know what you're gonna do. When you get to over here, I'm gonna have you, listen to me, I'm gonna have you lay down on the ground, and my gun is going in my holster, I promise you. If you will walk toward me.
To live a life of peace and joy. Instead, her life was cut short in the very place she worked hardest to protect. Her own home. And in that cruel twist, the heartbreak of Tiffany Harris's story deepens, leaving family and friends to reconcile the woman they knew with the horror of how her life ended. The scene at Tiffany Harris's home is quiet now, taped off by yellow police lines, but for those who were there on that September afternoon, the memory is anything but silent. Neighbors recall the sharp sound of gunfire echoing down the street, breaking the usual calm of Riverview. First, some thought it might have been fireworks. Then came the screams. One neighbor, shaken, described rushing to the window only to see Cortevius Cruz stumble outside, clutching his wounds, his face twisted in pain. He looked terrified, like he was running for his life, the neighbor recalled. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it was bad. Calls to 911 began almost instantly.
Toward that thing, man. Walk toward me with your hands up. I'm gonna walk you through every process. Please don't pick that back up. Please don't. Hey, one person talking. Please don't pick that back up. I got you. I'm telling you, I got you. Listen to how this will go. If you'll walk out to me with your hands up in the air. When you get to about right here, I'm gonna have you lay down on the ground. My gun is going in the holster. Bet that. It's going in the holster. Don't pick it up, Hadim. Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. You made such a good choice putting it down, bro. Just leave it on the ground, Hadim. Walk all the way out. All the way. Keep coming. Keep coming to me. Keep coming to me. Keep coming. I'm going to tell you when to stop. Keep coming to me, bud. Keep coming. Keep coming. Come on. You're good, bro. You're good. You're good. Keep walking toward me. Hadim, don't do it, bud. Keep on. Keep on. Keep on. Keep on. Keep coming toward me. Keep coming toward me. The pavement's going to be hot. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you lay down on the grass. Lay down on the grass. Lay down in the grass. Lay down in the grass. Lay down in the grass. Watch. Lay all the way down. My gun is going in its holster. Somebody's got cover. All right. Hey.
Frantic voices pleading for help. Others remember the sight of Tiffany's teenage son, Adeem, running down the street with the weapon still in hand. The image of a child with such destructive power left witnesses struggling to process what they were seeing. It didn't look real, another neighbor admitted. It was like something out of a nightmare. The police response was swift. Within minutes, squad cars filled the street, their sirens piercing the air. Officers emerged, weapons drawn, scanning the area for the armed suspect. Residents were told to stay inside their homes as the unfolding drama gripped the neighborhood. From their windows, families watched the standoff between Adeem and law enforcement. For 16 tense minutes, the street became a stage of desperation and control. Officers negotiating, Adeem resisting, the weight of his actions bearing down on everyone watching. The sight of the boy pressing the gun to his own head left even hardened officers shaken. Parents in the community later spoke about how their own children were traumatized by what they had witnessed. How do you explain to a child that another child could do this to his own mother? One resident asked. The sense of security that once defined their neighborhood was gone in an instant. When police finally subdued Adeem using less lethal force, a wave of relief swept through the block. But the relief was hollow, overshadowed by the knowledge that Tiffany Harris was gone. As investigators moved into the home to confirm the unthinkable, neighbors stood silently outside, hearts heavy with grief. In the days that followed, those same neighbors would replay the events over and over again in their minds. The sound of the gun, the image of Tiffany's boyfriend running for his life, the boy on the street with a weapon. For them, the story was not just something they watched unfold on the news. It was something they lived through and something they will never forget. When detectives first stepped into Tiffany Harris's home, they were greeted by a chilling silence. The living room bore the chaos of a violent struggle, broken items scattered across the floor, blood marking the trail of what had happened inside. For investigators, it was immediately clear this was no random act of violence.
18-year-old is facing felony charges tonight. Detectives say he shot and killed his mother and also shot her boyfriend. Annie Mapp is live in the Riverview neighborhood where it happened Saturday. Annie, what do you know tonight?
Stacey, detectives say this shooting happened during an argument between the victim and her boyfriend. I spoke to her family members off camera today, and they say this tragedy is heartbreaking, as not only have they lost that mother, but now her son is also facing time behind bars. Tiffany Harris was 39 years old and originally from Tallahassee. Detectives say her life was cut short after her own son shot her.
I can't ever imagine any dispute over anything being that important that you would murder your own mother.
Sheriff Chad Chronister says the 14-year-old male suspect also shot his mother's boyfriend 5 times. He was taken to a hospital and is now stable. Detectives say concerned neighbors called 911 after hearing the gunshots and seeing the teen running with a handgun in the Summerfield subdivision. I thought something serious must be happening because this is a quiet neighborhood, and never in the time that I've lived here with my daughter had we seen anything like this. Deputies who responded to the scene say the suspect threatened suicide. It took 16 minutes of negotiation and striking the teen with the projectile to get him into custody.
Lay down in the grass. Watch. Lay all the way down. My gun is going in its holster. Somebody's got cover.
Now the teen faces felony charges that include murder in the 2nd degree with the weapon, attempted murder in the 1st degree premeditated firearm, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
This is one of nightmares. This is heartbreaking.
The sheriff's office is still investigating this incident, and of course, as we learn more details, we will have those for you on air and online. Stacey?
Curious, Annie, did the 14-year-old suspect have a criminal history?
Stacey, Sheriff Chad Chronister said this teen had no prior criminal history, and the only previous call registered to this home from the sheriff's office was for a report of a stolen vehicle.
It was something far more intimate, more unsettling. At the heart of their investigation was Tiffany's teenage son, Adeem. Neighbors had already identified him as the one seen with the gun, and police reports confirmed the standoff that ended with his arrest. Still, detectives needed to piece together not only what had happened, but why. What drove a 16-year-old to turn a weapon on his own mother? Crime scene technicians documented every inch of the home, photographing shell casings, measuring bullet trajectories, and collecting fingerprints. Tiffany's body was found inside, a stark reminder of the brutality that had unfolded. Each piece of evidence painted a clearer picture of those final moments. A mother confronted by her son, a household turned battlefield. Meanwhile, Cortevius Cruz, Tiffany's boyfriend, lay in the hospital recovering from his gunshot wounds. Detectives wasted no time in interviewing him, hoping his account could shed light on the motive. His testimony was harrowing. The sudden eruption of violence, Tiffany's desperate final moments, and the sheer disbelief that her own son was behind it all. Investigators also turned their attention to Adeem's past. School records, social media accounts, and conversations with peers began to reveal a troubled teenager grappling with anger and unresolved conflict. The picture that emerged was not of a stranger who snapped but of a boy whose struggles had escalated into something deadly. Psychological experts were consulted to help explain Adeem's state of mind. Was this an act of cold intent, or the eruption of a teenager unable to control his impulses? The distinction would play a pivotal role in the legal proceedings to come, as prosecutors weighed how to handle the case of a juvenile charged with an adult crime. For detectives, however, the focus remained firmly on Tiffany. The investigation was not just about building a case. It was about honoring her life and seeking justice. Every detail, from the gun recovered at the scene to the statements of shocked neighbors, was carefully logged into the growing case file. By the end of the first week, investigators had built a damning narrative. A son who killed his mother, wounded her partner, and threatened to turn the gun on himself before being taken into custody. But while the facts seemed clear, the deeper questions, The why and how such a tragedy could unfold inside a family home would continue to haunt both detectives and the community long after the crime scene tape came down. In the days following Adeem Harris's arrest, the case quickly moved from the chaos of the crime scene into the structured world of the courtroom. Law enforcement made it clear, despite his age, the severity of the crime demanded serious consideration. Adeem was charged with murder for the death of his mother, Tiffany Harris, and attempted murder for the shooting of her boyfriend, Cortevious Cruz. The community watched closely as he was led into his first hearing. Shackled and subdued, Adeem cut the figure of a child caught in a system designed for adults. Yet the charges against him carried the weight of a crime far beyond his years. Prosecutors faced the difficult task of deciding whether to pursue him as a juvenile or move to charge him as an adult, a decision that could shape the rest of his life. For law enforcement, the focus remained on ensuring justice for Tiffany. Officers who had been at the standoff gave testimony about those tense 16 minutes when Adeem held a gun to his own head. Their accounts highlighted not only the danger to themselves and the neighborhood, but also the raw tragedy of a boy caught in the grip of violence. Court documents revealed new details. The handgun Adeem used, believed to have been taken from inside the home, the moments leading up to the shooting, and the desperate struggle Cortevious endured to escape with his life. These revelations fueled public debate about access to firearms, parental safety, and the cracks in the support systems for at-risk youth. At each proceeding, Tiffany's family sat quietly in the courtroom, grieving yet determined to see justice carried out. Their presence was a reminder that behind the legal jargon and the media headlines was a woman whose life had been cut short in the most shocking way imaginable. Defense attorneys painted a different picture, emphasizing Adeem's age, his turbulent emotional state, and the possibility of rehabilitation. Was he a cold-blooded killer, or a boy who made an irreversible mistake in a moment of rage? It was a question that loomed heavily over the courtroom and divided public opinion. Meanwhile, law enforcement officials stood firm. They argued that no matter his age, Adeem's actions had left one person dead, another gravely wounded, and an entire neighborhood scarred. To them, this was not simply a matter of youth but of accountability, a community's right to justice. As the legal process unfolded, the case of Tiffany Harris became more than a single family tragedy. It became a test of the justice system itself. How to balance compassion with accountability, and how to respond when violence tears through the very bond that should be most unbreakable, a mother and her child. The murder of Tiffany Harris reverberated far beyond the walls of her home. Neighbors who once exchanged casual greetings at the mailbox now spoke in hushed tones, grappling with the reality that violence of this magnitude had unfolded right next door. A sense of unease lingered in the community, replacing the familiarity of everyday life with questions that felt impossible to answer. For Tiffany's family, the impact was immeasurable. She was more than the victim in a headline. She was a mother, a partner, a loved one whose absence created a silence that could never be filled. Holidays and milestones would now serve as painful reminders of what had been lost, and of the brutal way in which her life had been taken. Her boyfriend, Cortevious Cruz, carried not only physical scars but emotional ones. Surviving a gunshot meant confronting the trauma of that night over and over again. He had witnessed the unthinkable, watching the woman he loved gunned down by her own son. Recovery for him would not be measured only in medical charts but in the long nights haunted by memory. The wider community also struggled to reconcile what had happened. Schools, churches, and local organizations began hosting conversations about youth violence, mental health, and the strained bonds between parents and teenagers. People searched for meaning in the tragedy, hoping that perhaps, in understanding it, they could prevent another. Experts weighed in, pointing to the broader crisis facing young people: mental health struggles, fractured homes, and access to deadly weapons. Tiffany's story became a case study in how easily private turmoil can spill into public devastation. It was a reminder that tragedies like this are not born overnight. They are the result of pressure, conflict, and unresolved pain building over time. For many, the case raised difficult moral questions. Could something have been done to intervene earlier in Adeem's life? Was there a point at which a teacher, a counselor, Or even a neighbor might have noticed warning signs and acted. Or was this one of those tragedies that no one could have predicted or prevented? Through vigils, memorials, and online tributes, Tiffany's life was honored by those who loved her. They remembered her not for the violence that ended her story, but for her warmth, her strength, and the way she had cared for her family. In telling her story, they reclaimed her from the shadows of her death, ensuring she would not be remembered only as a victim. And yet, beneath every reflection lay the same aching truth. A mother was gone, her son stood accused of killing her, and the community was left to wrestle with grief and disbelief. The impact of Tiffany Harris's death was not contained to a single household. It rippled outward, touching lives, reshaping conversations, and leaving behind a haunting reminder of how fragile the ties of family can sometimes be. As the trial of Adeem Harris inches closer, the legal system braces for a case that is as tragic as it is complex. Court records confirm that Adeem faces charges of murder and attempted murder, and his next court appearance is scheduled for later this year. For Tiffany's family, each new date on the calendar is another painful reminder that closure is still far away. The investigation itself is largely complete, but the echoes of that January night continue to shape the prosecution's strategy. Prosecutors have emphasized the calculated nature of Adeem's actions, while the defense prepares to argue that his age and emotional state must be considered. Every motion, every argument, and every ruling carries the weight of Tiffany's absence. Behind the courtroom drama, law enforcement continues to emphasize vigilance. Detectives have used Tiffany's case as a chilling example of how quickly family conflicts can spiral into violence when firearms are accessible. Police spokespeople have urged communities to stay alert, to check in on loved ones, and to take seriously the warning signs of escalating domestic conflict. For many in the neighborhood, the pending trial feels like a shadow that has yet to lift. The house where Tiffany lived remains a quiet marker of tragedy, its walls once filled with laughter now standing as silent testimony to loss. Each time the case resurfaces in headlines, the community is forced to relive the horror. At the same time, Tiffany's name has become a rallying point. Advocacy groups have begun invoking her story in broader conversations about domestic violence, mental health, and youth intervention. Her death, while unbearably painful, has sparked dialogue that may help protect other families from similar devastation. The road ahead remains uncertain for Adeem. Whether tried as a juvenile or an adult, his fate lies in the hands of the court, and the outcome will reverberate for decades. For Tiffany's loved ones, justice will never mean restoration, but it may bring some measure of peace, a recognition that her life mattered, and that her death demands accountability. As the calendar moves closer to trial, one truth becomes clear: Tiffany Harris's story is not over. It continues to unfold in the halls of justice, in the conversations of her community, and in the memories of all who knew her. What happened in that home has left scars, but it has also left lessons that must not be ignored. And so, we leave this story with both grief and resolve. Grief for the life that was lost, for the family torn apart. Resolve that tragedies like this should never fade into silence. If you found this story important, we invite you to like, share, and comment, so that Tiffany's story is heard, remembered, and carried forward. And for more stories that shed light on the human cost of violence, don't forget to subscribe. In the days that followed Tiffany Harris's death, her street took on a somber stillness. What was once an ordinary neighborhood now bore the weight of grief. Neighbors moved quietly, speaking in whispers, their faces marked by the shock of knowing such tragedy had unfolded in their midst. Flowers began to appear near the home where Tiffany had lived, bouquets left by friends, co-workers, and even strangers who felt compelled to honor her memory. Notes tucked into the arrangements spoke of love, sorrow, and disbelief. Some thanked her for her kindness, others simply said, "Rest in peace, Tiffany." As the community gathered, vigils were held. Candlelight flickered against the night sky, casting soft glows on tear-streaked faces. People shared stories of who Tiffany was. A devoted mother, a friend who never turned away when someone needed help, a woman whose warmth touched many. Each story added a layer to her legacy, ensuring she was remembered as more than a headline. The grief was not confined to her immediate circle. Schools, workplaces, and churches in the area all felt the ripples of her passing. Community leaders spoke about the need to watch over one another, to take mental health and domestic struggles seriously, and to recognize that behind closed doors, pain often goes unseen. For those who lived nearby, there was a haunting reminder every time they passed Tiffany's home. The sight of it stirred memories of sirens, flashing lights, and the unthinkable events of that night. But alongside the pain came determination, a quiet vow among neighbors to stand closer together in support and solidarity. The memorials became more than gestures of grief. They became symbols of resilience. Each candle lit in Tiffany's honor was also a call to prevent future tragedies, to recognize warning signs, and to remember that no community, no matter how peaceful it seems, is immune to heartbreak. As the camera lingers on the flickering candlelight, the voiceover reminds us, in death, Tiffany's light shone again, through mournful memories, shared grief, and the painful realization that no home is immune from tragedy. The screen fades slowly to a photograph of Tiffany, her smile frozen in time. And with that, we close her story, but not her memory. To keep her legacy alive, we ask you to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more cases like this. Because in telling these stories, we honor those we've lost and remind ourselves of the vigilance needed to protect the living.